Hey everyone, welcome to Electronic Gaming Mostly Podcast, episode 12, Untitled.
Oh, God. Is it episode 12?
Yeah. We're supposed to do it every week. We've been doing it for like 30. And it's episode 12. I'm Seeker127 with the Gabller.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about mostly Resident Evil and some of the Anthem demo because we've been playing the shit out of that game. I did everything. Every achievement. And it only cheated a little bit, so. And he's playing it right now, which is why it's going to be a delayed reaction.
Well, no, I'm taking it light. But I'm with you on that. I only cheated a little bit. I'm 100%. I don't 100% a lot of games, but I still want to play this game.
Yeah. Even like yesterday when no one was on and I didn't want to play Call of Duty, I was like, yeah, I guess I'll play Resident Evil 2. Just like, yeah, I guess I'll play it for 8 hours straight and beat it 3 times, you know.
I keep finding myself wanting to play. I've played 50 hours of this game. I've beat both scenarios multiple times. I've 100% of the game. I still want to play it. I don't know. It keeps pulling me in.
It does a lot right. You may hear a cat in the background. Ignore that. He's just being a bitch. And we're doing the podcast live for the first time ever on a whim. I wasn't prepared, which is why it's just a blank screen and voices, but you can use your imagination. It's like listening to the radio. For those of you who don't know, the radio was this thing they had back in the day where they would send signals through the airwaves, and you had to have a radio to pick up those waves and listen. So
wave it around, Marty.
It was kind of like a podcast before there was the internet. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
You also couldn't see anything. People used to gather around their living room. Instead of it being a television, it was a radio. They would just stare at their dicks and just listen to people talk. It wasn't something that you just did in the background to just distract you from driving.
And kill you.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 2, as a huge Resident Evil fan, and it might just be because it's still fresh, I think it's the best one. I think it's better than the original. I think it's better than the GameCube remake.
Mm-hmm.
I think it definitely retains the spirit of the older games and, you know, does the over-the-shoulder thing for all the crybabies. But it works. Over-the-shoulder works.
I think it's better.
Well, you don't really get the that B-movie kind of fixed camera experience. I've seen a mod where they do the whole gas station segment at the beginning with fixed camera, and it actually works pretty well. The problem is that most of the game, to make up
cuts.
part of that is because
that guy was an amateur.
You gotta put the cameras in certain places, but the lighting is mostly from your flashlight, so you can't really see anything. So to make up for not being able to see around a corner because of fixed cameras, they made the whole game mostly really dark and gave you a flashlight. They kind of give you that tunnel vision. And it doesn't really work well with fixed cameras.
I do think it could work like a classic mode, but I'm not a fan of it necessarily with the remake because I think the remake is superior in just about every way. I played the original Resident Evil 2, and I think it's far superior than
well, it ought to be after 20 years, you know?
I'm trying not to upset people, but I don't think the fixed camera is that great, honestly. I'm not against going back and playing the originals or anything like that, but
well, I'm not saying that it should have had a fixed camera, but
but I
like the style
that swear by it. The style's fine, and I think it works with old games. I think you could maybe make some indie games today that use those fixed camera systems. I think it still holds up, but I'm glad that the remake isn't like Remake 1. I'm glad that it's the way it is because I think the over the shoulder is better.
Well,
This is
it's better for most things, but there's just some
like
kind of
Resident
weird,
Evil 4
like
should
someone's that paranoid, someone's watching you kind of feeling. You don't get that anymore. Other than that, yeah, you
I
can
don't
aim
know
better.
though, because the camera gets tight up behind you, and I think it makes it a little more frightening. At times, the atmosphere is so good in this game that Resident Evil games aren't usually scary.
Well, they're usually got 2 to 5 jump scares. A lot of jump scares happen that aren't even intentional. There's only 2 to 5 that are intentional, but most of it's about tension and atmosphere. With the tension coming from you never feel prepared and you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I'm down to 5 handgun bullets and 2 shotgun shells.
I
hope I don't.
I hope I don't run into Tyrant.
Yeah.
No,
it's a meme now.
I've played this game, the original, and I've played this game, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Oh my God, so many times over the past 2 weeks. It's still kind of intense in certain areas.
Are you going back and playing it legit with no infinite ammo weapons?
Yeah. It's still got intense moments in certain areas where even though you know something's coming, it still builds up to it nicely. I think the scary part of games these days, a lot of games tried to do the disarm you so that you're helpless and give you a feeling of helplessness. Those games usually devolve into just run away.
Yeah, or hide in the locker. Which is why I generally don't like those games. Like Amnesia was okay because you only really come across enemies like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of that. But a lot of people liked Outlast, and I didn't. Like, it was predictable. You played it with me. Like, you go and you look at a file and a little cutscene happens and then it ends and I'm just like, all right, what do you want to bet that when I turn around there's going to be an enemy standing there?
Yeah,
turn around, an enemy standing there.
They try to go
and then you run from everything. That's it.
Thing. Yeah, you just run from everything. They try to build up a creepy horror thing going on. I think ultimately, though, when it comes to... I think Resident Evil 2 Remake has shown that you can make something terrifying and scary, but still have weapons. Once you know how many hits it takes for Tyrant to go to a knee, like 2 grenades, and he goes down even on hardcore, it becomes a little easier. Grenades become that much more valuable. You really don't even need to use it because there's no way that he can even get to you, right? Like there's certain times, like when I was dealing with Tyrant in the beginning, I was just giving him the slip by having him. I wouldn't even like run around him. I just have him follow me upstairs, and then I'd take a downstairs detour, and he'd be on that side of the map.
Yeah, if he meets up with you in like a main area, then it's not that big of a deal. It's when he walks into a tiny little room with you, or when you're trying, you got to get from point A to point B, and all of a sudden he walks through a door, and now you got to backtrack and go the long way through a bunch of lickers and zombies and shit you're not prepared for.
But one grenade kind of puts him at least in a
you can't do that every time because you know that those grenades are going to be really useful later. Like it's painful to shoot them because you know how much you're wasting.
I don't know. Flash grenades are pretty useless in this game outside of dealing with him. I think they put him out enough. Like he swings about 3 times or so before he recovers. Let's say the storage room, for example. It's the records room. So when you go to the records room, he always comes to the records room. Sometimes he'll get there quickly. Sometimes he won't. But like you have to then backtrack through a hallway with a potential liquor in it. Well, you can wait for him to get to the records room and flashbang him, and then you can walk out the door and walk down the hallway far enough before he even gets close to you that you should be almost out of that hallway so you can start sprinting again and not get attacked by the liquor.
So that hallway is the reason that my my hardcore S Plus run was so fucked up. I played the first part of that game up until that whole use the club key probably 7 times. Because what happens is when you go through there the first time, first of all, an S Plus run, for those of you who don't know, on hardcore is less than 2 hours on the second scenario. You got to save it less than 3 times. And there's no like hit continue, there's no checkpointing. It's just wherever you last saved it, like the good old days.
Yep.
So the first part of the game, once you know where everything is pretty good, but you're doing a speed run, so you have to leave a bunch of stuff behind. including a lot of like inventory space stuff and ammo. So this one part where you get the club key and you got to go through this hallway that you've been through before. The first time you go through, there's one liquor, and liquors you could just walk by.
Times.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing, that's like the minimum is 3. The first time though, there's a bunch of windows you can board up, but because you're doing a speed run, you're not boarding
yet.
Yeah, you don't have boards, and you're not going to backtrack. Well, you could still get the boards and then go back before the zombies break through. I've done it.
I think you get 2 boards before you go that way. One of them, you get 1 board outside where you first meet Claire after the helicopter.
I mean, crashes. You can get 3. You get 1. Well, you get 1 that you have to use right next to the save room. You don't have to, but It makes it a lot more helpful.
Most people use it there. Yeah,
you get 1 past the waiting room. You get 1 right before. Actually, you get 1 right in the beginning on the B scenario when you come through the door. It's just sitting there. You get that one, but
yeah.
Point is you're not going to have enough the first time you go through, and since you're speed running, you're not going to go back and board up those windows. So at most you'll have 2, but there's still going to be zombies in the way in that hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Now the liquor, because you on the B scenario, it just throws you into the thick of shit with Mr. X, and the liquor is already spawned, and you have nothing except for a handgun. You're probably just going to either throw a flashbang or sneak by the liquor. You're not going to kill it. So now there's that liquor, and then a new one spawns when you go back with the club key. You got all those zombies in there that you can't shoot because the liquors will flip out, and Mr. X always shows up.
Fun fact.
And I fucking died there so many goddamn times that I just decided to save it before that. So because I saved there, I could only save it 2 more times, and my 3rd save was before the Birkin fight with the crane. So I had to make it through the entire fucking lab and the super tyrant without dying. And I didn't do it. I could have done it if I knew what I know now, that you don't need to fucking shoot the super tyrant at all. You can just wait it out.
Well, you also can block the attack with the shit that falls from the ceiling.
Yeah. See, he does this gib move, again, for people who don't know, where he like flexes his arms and roars and then charges at you. And on normal difficulty, you can just throw a flashbang and interrupt him. But the windup is much shorter on hardcore, so you can't do that. So I didn't know what else to do. He can stagger if you do enough damage, but it's hardcore, so it takes more damage.
Yeah.
And you're kind of running low on resources because, you didn't pick up everything. Yeah, it's the end of the game, and you didn't pick up everything because it's a speed run under 2 hours. But it turns out you can just hide behind a rock and he'll do it to the rock. And I think you can knife him too. I think if I had a knife and I just kind of ran away from him, when he starts doing the charge up thing, I can just get close to him and swipe him. And I think that stuns him. So I could have done it, but I decided to cheat instead because I spent 8 hours playing the last half of that fucking game on hardcore. And yeah, I got the rocket launcher and I got the minigun, but I don't really use them. I just wanted to have them. But, if I knew what I know now, I could have did it legit. And I might go back and do it legit one day, because why not? But that one part of the game is super fucking difficult. And you wouldn't think it is. But I've seen people do speed runs, and they just run right through. They just, they don't even walk or sneak by the liquors. They just run, and the liquor doesn't do anything. It's like, what are these, the luckiest fucking people on the planet?
Right. I get... Like,
I get
there's
fucked
that
over
liquor,
so much.
When you do tofu, there's that liquor in the long hallway before you fight first Birkin. And like, he'll always miss you every time with some kind of lunge attack or something. But every time he ends up right on my ass after that turn before that first zombie and hits me. Every time. Every time.
Yeah, that's an acceptable hit.
And then every time I see somebody else doing it, it's like they don't get fucking touched. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I did do all the tofus legit, though. Proud of that.
Yeah, not me. I cheesed the fuck out of that bullshit.
I mean,
it wasn't even worth it.
Once you figure out, you don't even unlock anything.
Yeah, you don't unlock anything. A model.
Yeah, all right, so if you beat the game on A and B scenarios, you unlock Force Survivor, which you get to play as Hunk. And then once you beat that, you get tofu, like the classic tofu with just a knife. In this case, it's a bunch of combat knives, so you can use them defensively too. And then after you beat it as tofu, you unlock 2 more tofus One of them just has grenades. It's like 36 grenades, and that's it. And that one was actually pretty easy. And then the other one has a bunch of flame rounds for the grenade launcher and a flamethrower, which was actually more difficult than the grenades, believe it or not, because neither of those really have any stopping power. Then once you beat, I think, one of those, you get two more. One of them has a bunch of herbs and both of the B scenario pistols, so Leon's 1911 and the Colt. And then the other guy, what does the other guy have? I forget. Oh, the other one has no healing, but has a rocket launcher, a minigun, and the spark shot. With, virtually unlimited ammo for the spark shot, which is actually pretty good in this game.
Virtually, yeah.
I mean, it's got 207 rounds, which you'll never use. Even if you killed everything with just the spark shot. And then once you beat all that, you get nothing. I think you get some models or something you could look at, but
other than the infinite weapons, it's a lot of useless shit.
Yeah, and even the infinite weapons they give you aren't even good. Like, for beating the game on standard with an S rank, you get an infinite ammo pistol, and it's the worst pistol in the game in terms of power and how long it takes to.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it.
Well, they give you all these upgrades for some of your main guns, and you don't even get to fucking use those.
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of good for I got all the pre-order bonuses. And so I didn't have to use Claire's gun, a little 5-shot piece of crap. So that was good. The only upgrades you get for her are speed loader, which brings it up to all the pre-order bonuses. And then later on you get an upgraded frame, which basically turns it into a Magnum, but not with regular handgun bullets. You still have to use high-grade bullets or whatever, and you only get 16 of those. It's weird. Claire gets a different pistol. She gets one with a laser sight, so you don't have to wait for the crosshair to get small.
Which is an amazing gun, and then it's barely used at all. Well, I don't understand why they don't let you keep those or some shit into next playthroughs.
Yeah, that'd be cool to have a new game plus mode.
Yeah.
I hope they add shit. I hope they just preserve the game as it is now, but then they add new game plus type shit, more gun upgrades and
we're getting more enemies, DLCs for free.
Well,
based off other survivors.
It's a 3-part one DLC. It's called Ghost Survivors.
Ghost Survivors, yeah. So what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean they die, or does that mean they're survivors?
They all die in the game.
Nobody knew about.
No, they all die in the game. They said it's a what if scenario. That's gonna be one of two things. It's either gonna be little mini snippets of the game that take you from the beginning of their story, wherever Capcom decides that is, to where you see them in the main game, or it's gonna be kind of some kind of extreme battle mode. Think of Hunk. You got to get from point A to point B, but the idea is to kill everything, not learn where to run to skip shit. Kind of like the extreme battle mode in the DualShock version of Resident Evil 2, right? There's 3 stages, and in the first stage, you got to just get to a certain point, and then the second stage, you got to find all the bombs, and then stage 3 is you have to plant all the bombs or something, or you get to the place where you plant them. But through the whole thing, there's pickups, which is different than Hunk, because you don't get to pick up anything. And it's kind of you're racing the clock. With an extreme battle mode, the whole idea was you still don't unlock anything. But you could try to beat your own record in terms of time. So the more shit that you pick up and the more enemies you kill, the less, the lower your time's going to be. So, I don't know. I'm still surprised that they didn't add a first-person mode. I thought for sure that was going to be one of the unlockables. I mean, fuck, if they can do it for Code Veronica. I mean, this engine's already set up for it.
Right? A lot of missed opportunities.
There's a few things I don't like. We'll start with that because the list is short. One of them is the old Resident Evil games. The zombies were pretty predictable. There was some RNG, but it was pretty subtle. This one, there seems to be a lot more RNG when it comes to if you're capable of skirting a zombie or dodging shit. There are some times when
their lurch attacks are just way too strong.
Yeah, and in the old games, if you got bit by a zombie, you could push him off and take
Right.
less damage. You can't do that here. On standard mode, I never played assisted mode, so everything is standard or hardcore. But on standard, you get bit once, you're in caution. Get bit again, you're in danger. You get bit again, you're dead. And if you get bit by 2 zombies at the same time, you take double damage. On hardcore, you take 1 bite and you're in danger. So it's pretty unforgiving. So there are some times when, like, you'll shoot him in the head once, you just pop him and run by, and that totally works. And then there are other times when you can shoot them in the head 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and they just keep coming. They don't even flinch.
Yep.
I don't like that. I get that the game would be too easy if a headshot meant to kill every time, but you should be able to reliably stun them. And I know there's people out there like, well, you fucking idiot, just shoot him in the leg. Yeah, still random. I've shot zombies in the leg 3 times and the leg breaks, and I've shot them in the head 7 times and they still bite me.
Yeah, there's a random critical modifier. So if you let your crosshairs close up, you get more of an increased chance of critical. So what that means is there's an underlying crit modifier in the game that it's a crit chance, not a 100% crit. So that's the random that we're talking about, where randomly you can get a crit on the leg and it'll pop on the 3rd shot. But there's no way to tell like how many shots are without the crit, because you never know when you're getting the crit. In terms of, like, let's say I wanted to test it out and by shooting the same zombie and loading the game. I mean, I don't know if it's the 6th shot. I might get to 7 shots and consistently get to 7 and it breaks. But what if I'm just getting lucky and that's the fucking crit? I'm sure you could parse out some kind of number. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that sometimes when I shoot a zombie, it's going to break more than not.
Yeah. And one of the other reasons I don't like the shoot them in the leg strategy is because I think they're harder to deal with when they're fucking crawling towards you. You still take just as much damage. There's no, at least in the old games when you got bit in the leg, you just crush their head. So yeah, you took damage, but at least you know that they're dead for good. That does not happen in this game.
Yeah, they crawl up your body.
So you feel the need to shoot their leg, and then you feel the need to fucking kill them anyway because they're still a problem, especially if there's a bunch of them laying on the ground. They're not any easier to dodge. They still lunge at you.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't know where that strategy comes from. You could dodge them most of the time by shooting them in the head and then running by. Like if you try to shoot them in the head and run by, I would say that works 90% of the time. If you try to shoot them in the leg one time and run by, that probably works 50-50 for me. So I don't think it's really worth shooting them anywhere but the head, ever. Because the other thing is that you might get lucky and outright kill them if you shoot them in the head. And that'll never happen by shooting them in the knee.
Yep. I mean, I agree on some degree. Like, I think it's a little obnoxious when a game is so randomized. I think random isn't a good thing. I'm okay with variety, but I don't think random is okay.
I mean, I'm okay with random. I think they overdid it just a little bit.
I'd prefer it to be like, oh, it's a fat zombie. I know that he can take a lot of damage. Oh, it's the zombie with this face. I know that he's very aggressive. Variety is good. Random is not. Oh, it's the female zombie. I don't know what the fuck that means because I'm shooting her in the face 16 times and she's still coming at me and hasn't been fucking stunned once. Oh, I stabbed this zombie with a knife because I shot this zombie in the face 4 times and it still kept coming at me, never got stunned, and now it's on me and I'm stabbing it with my knife and pushing it back, and I'm going to shoot it and backpedal twice, and it gets 2 shots off before it aggressively comes and grabs me again and does damage. And that's any zombie can be that way at any time.
Or so it seems. I'm sure there's some kind of pattern that someone's going to figure out, but
I don't know.
So there's that. That's one of the things I don't like. The other thing is that Claire and Leon interact way less in this game than they did in the original. Like in the original, they would kind of keep each other updated over the radio. They don't really do that. They meet up at the beginning, and then they really don't talk again until the very end.
Yeah, there's the moment where they meet at the burning helicopter, and then there's a couple notes left behind, and then the end of the game. I believe that's all that they do.
Yeah. So it just kind of seems like the game is less intertwined than it used to be. It used to feel like, you were kind of both just missing each other. And there's still little subtle things like that. Like if you go through on an A scenario And well, Claire, it doesn't matter what scenario you do. Claire always goes through the end part first, like on the way to the exit, because her and Sherry actually make it across the bridge and have to fight the tyrant, or not the tyrant, the G4 or whatever it is. And then when Leon comes by, you know, he has to fight the tyrant who breaks the bridge. You never make it to the bridge. So when you go through as Claire, all those little plant monsters you could just run by, right? Because they're still laying on the ground and then they stand up as you run by. And then when you come by as Leon, they're still standing. So I was always kind of like, it took me a lot of playthroughs to finally realize that, oh, Claire came through first. But here's the thing, like the scenarios aren't intertwined. So if you decide to kill them as Claire, they're not dead as Leon.
Yeah.
Which is the whole zapping system that they talked about doing away with, which I'm okay with, but
yeah, it might be too easy at that point. You run by way too much stuff that's just out of the way.
Well, it would be rough, you know, like if there's only one way they could have made the zapping system, quote, better, and that's just applying it to everything. Right, so if you pick up all the ammo as Leon, there's nothing for Claire.
Right.
You know, you could fuck yourself over.
There is some interesting stuff from what you're talking about, like the little nuanced stuff where they kind of meet. They don't really meet, but they're kind of aware of presence. Yeah. And no matter what scenario you're playing, I don't know if maybe it's just B scenario, but I think it might be both. When you're playing as Claire, when you go into the records room from your side, which is the heart door side,
easy side,
I swear it always immediately triggers Mr. X from any location. Tyrant will come at you from no matter how far away he was when you ditched him, he will immediately be on your ass and the music will play regardless of him spotting you or being there. After an event happens when you're in the records room, I don't know what's going on there. I haven't paid enough attention to it. But you can test it out and see what you think. But when you go into the records room as Claire, you can hear a noise outside the club key door. It sounds like a person is out there. I'm assuming it's Leon. And it immediately pisses off Tyrant. And he comes into that room after you.
Yeah, but could be.
I don't know what that sound is. But it's a thing.
I never noticed that.
Stuff like that's pretty cool. Yeah, next time you're playing Claire, I'd do Claire B just to be safe, to make sure it happens, because it definitely happens on Claire B. When you go into the records room, listen in the back corner, you'll hear some scuffling going on. I don't know what it's supposed to imply.
It's just supposed to freak you out. Or it could be
Tyrant
Leon.
shows up right afterwards, from the opposite door, the one you came in. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the only stuff that I have complaints about. I think everything else is great.
See, I think they missed a mark on this. I feel like they could have done something with this game where, imagine you go out into the lobby, like just a segment, like it's always a trigger. Like you go out into the first time you go in the library, there's only one way to get in there the first time, and that's from the third floor. And let's say you use the key. The moment you use the key on that spade door, when you go down to the second floor of the library, they could have had a moment like that be a nice trigger where when you step out, it's just Leon is in the lobby going the other way, right? He's like going towards whatever, the waiting room or some shit like that. Or maybe he's on the first floor and he's going through a door or something. You can see him off in the distance. And maybe she'd even say something like, was that Leon? Right. Or just whatever. Like that little kind of stuff. I think they could have done that once or twice to kind of just throw it in there. Like, oh, he's around.
Yeah.
He's doing
But then it would have kind of been like, well, how did Leon or Claire get ahead of me without doing the fucking puzzle that I'm doing right now? You know? Well, I've always had that issue. How the fucking Wesker and Barry get to the fucking guardhouse without doing a goddamn thing?
That's already an issue. You have this interesting, you come in on Claire B and Leon's already been underground, but the statue, you still got to get all the pieces to the statue.
Yeah.
How did he get there? Did fucking Marvin just walk around and put the shit back? It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's a little odd. That's why when people complain, or not complain, but when people argue about which version of the game is canon, I don't think it's any version. I think it's canon is like a little mixture of both, or all four, however you want to think about it.
It's probably a mixture of both, excluding gameplay.
I think the books did it really well. If you ever read the books by S.D. Perry,
the books
that's
linked to Leon being.
Well, no, like in the books, everyone's kind of doing everything all at once. Like one person doesn't just go through and do all the puzzles. It's everyone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what we just said pretty much. Like maybe
you can't do that in a game really, because then every
Leon's
playthrough
going around getting the medals, and then Claire is outside getting to the fucking police station, and then she gets there and comes in, and she's the one that, opens up some of the doors, maybe like the diamond key door or whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting that they did in this game, is that if you're Leon, you don't get the heart key, and if you're Claire, you don't get the club key.
Yeah, that was interesting.
We didn't know that going in. It took, we went to the interrogation room, and we're like, why the fuck do both of these keys lead to the same fucking place?
That's where my assumption came in, and I was like, okay, that's the moment where I thought, I don't think you get a heart key as Leon, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
To get a heart key and come back down and open this door. I could see how, I mean, another assumption could have been maybe you can get them in any order you want, but, or maybe it's a B scenario thing, but I thought, yeah, it makes sense. Japanese, Claire gets the heart key, right?
Well, after you play through as Claire, it becomes pretty apparent, because all those doors lead to the same place pretty much.
Yeah.
There's like one or two rooms you never get to as Leon or Claire.
It has to do with the chief's office. Just like in the regular game, right? The original.
Yeah, and then like Claire never gets to go to that area where you actually get the club key. It's all boarded up.
Which is those kind of things are cool. I mean, when you come into the police station in Resident Evil 3 and a lot of stuff's boarded up, it's kind of a little cool thing because you've played Resident Evil 2 and you're like, oh, this is cool. Look at all this stuff that's boarded up still. And then in this game, you'll like when you first come in the police station, you can go back outside. But after Marvin has kind of come into the picture and done some shit, the front it gets boarded up by him. He kind of puts stuff in the way and you can't go back out there.
Yeah.
Changes like that are really cool.
Yeah, there's no Brad, by the way, so it doesn't matter what happens. You can't go back out the front and meet Brad and kill him and pick up a key. There's none of that. But there is a poster somewhere with Brad on it.
As far as we know, there's no Brad.
Oh, I think at this point someone would have found him.
I don't know, man. Some of these Japanese games, it goes a while till people find out secrets.
You can get you can get a piece of film out of Wesker's desk.
Oh yeah, that's.
But that doesn't happen till later. It's not by investigating his desk 50 times.
It's kind of like it though, because it doesn't give a prompt.
I should have known though. I mean, you could see it clear as day when you take out the other thing.
Yeah, should have known. It's the same exact thing too. The one thing we didn't find on our own.
Yeah, I think we did most of it. I wrote everything down. I got all these notes taped to my monitor with all the puzzles and shit. Most of it I did myself. The locks, the safe combinations, the codes for the lab, the statues, the plug puzzles, the electronic power panel part puzzle to get into the parking permit for the parking garage.
Parking permit. Park permit.
I think the only thing I didn't do was the little cartridge dispersal thing in the lab. I mean, I figured that out on my own, but I looked up the pattern and yeah, it's way easier than you think. The lab I thought was a lot better than the original lab. It actually kind of looks like a lab and not some extension of the sewers where people are doing high-level research. Oh, man. Yeah, this is what happens when you mix the G-Virus with a turd.
Right. It looks like a shit monster.
Ada's cover story is way better. Instead of just being, I'm looking for my boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's claims to be FBI for most of it. And man, she a bitch. Holy shit. Like, Leon comes out with Ben's tape recorder. It's like, here, I was hoping you could explain what's on it. She's like, maybe after I hear it. Like, yeah, obviously after you hear it. Like, I'm not a fucking idiot. God, and then every time she saves your life, this is getting old. That's twice I've saved your ass.
And then later on, she's in
Fine,
the sewer.
let me fucking
Leon
die next time then.
Him?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just... Fine, bitch. I'll go on without you. Still well done, though. I think I prefer new Ada.
No, well, yeah, obviously, but Jesus, she's a bitch. She goes from being a total bitch to kissing Leon to betraying him to saving his life. I think they did do a better job of keeping it ambiguous. Like, well, does she really care for Leon or what? Like, you think she does, and then she betrays him, and then she also slides you a rocket launcher at the end, so could go either way. We'll have to wait until Resident Evil 3 Remake, which, by the way, I think they're alluding to that, because in the police station, there's these giant fucking holes in the wall, like Tyrant busted through them, only Tyrant's not there yet. And canonically, Jill was there first, so I'm going to have to say that those holes were made by Nemesis.
That makes sense.
And you know what? Fuck Capcom. Fuck them for being like, well, we'll make Resident Evil 3 Remake if the demand is high enough. Like, motherfuckers, what more do you want us to beg for fucking 12 years again? Is that what you're waiting for?
Yeah, that's
like
a pretty...
the fans begging for years and
answer.
years? Like, no, like this is one of your more successful Resident Evil games. I mean,
well, I mean, look at the success of the game. The game was super successful.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're
Twitch list.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually working on it and they're just fucking teasing everybody. How can you not? Like, how can you add all these little nods to Resident Evil 3 in the game and then claim they're like, well, if demand is high enough, like they're just playing coy, like they don't know that it's going to be wildly successful after this? Like, come on.
Well, this game has given me the same problem Metal Gear Solid 5 gave me. I want every Resident Evil game remade in this engine with this style at this point. Like, I want more of this game. Specifically the way this game plays. This engine, this play style, like all of it. It's just more of it.
I mean, why would you make the RE engine and then only have like one fucking game or two games on it?
Right?
Like, come on. I mean, I still think that every 10 years they should just remake the whole fucking one through Code Veronica. 1, 2, 3 and Code Veronica.
I'm not even gonna sit here and be like, hey, remake the game the same way you did 2, where a lot of shit's different. You can go ahead and just copy paste. As far as I care, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said it before, but if they remake Resident Evil 3, they're gonna have to add some kind of evasive shit. Like they did in the original 3, if you aimed at the same time you were being attacked, you would dodge out of the way. It was nothing huge. It wasn't like Resident Evil 6 levels of, dodging, rolling, sliding, all that shit. But here's the problem. You go into a Resident Evil 3 remake and you try to make this style of over-the-shoulder shooter, but make it more action-based, because Resident Evil 3 was more action-based. You kind of ride a fine line between being a good Resident Evil game and being like fucking Resident Evil 5 or 6 type action shooter.
I honestly think that if this game had a dodge mechanic, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
But the way the zombies lurch at you sometimes, it feels like it's necessary. There's this weird thing that happens. A lot of times I end up running into shit when I'm running from Tyrant or something. Because there's this weird thing that happens where when you're running forwards, and if you stop for a second, then turn, like cut left with your keys or your controller or whatever you're doing, and then start sprinting again, you'll just quickly go in that direction. It's almost like they decided like they were gonna put it in, but then I don't know. It's really interesting. Maybe that's supposed to be how maybe I'm supposed to be dodging like that. I don't know.
Well, it's not really consistent enough, and if anything's that close to you, they're gonna fucking get you anyway. That's not really gonna get you out of the way of a zombie lunge, because they are pretty aggressive.
Yeah, they're really fucking aggressive.
And the tank controls, their threat used to be in that you were in really tight spaces and your controls weren't that precise, and you'd have to learn how to juke them. There's no juking zombies in this game, by the way. You either shoot them and run by, or you give them a wide berth if you can.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you can juke some zombies in hunk scenario because they take time to activate, kind of like an older Resident Evil game. So if you're fast enough, you can get by them before they activate and come after you. And that kind of works. But again, hunk scenario is probably the least random of all of them because you can run the same route pretty much every time. And if you do it right, you'll get the same outcome every time. And part of it is that in the old Resident Evil games, you could reset a room, right? Like you walk into a room and you're like, oh, fuck. And then you run out and run back in. All the zombies are back in their starting spots. But it's all one continuous thing in this one. You can't do that. So you never really know where the zombies are going to be.
You can bait zombies into other rooms.
Yeah.
If you don't want a room full of zombies, instead of killing them, you can bait them into other rooms and then drop them. And if they come back to life, they're in a different room and it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and there's actually one case towards the beginning that is actually surprisingly stressful. It happens kind of early in the B scenario, but in the A scenario, it's a little later. But it's when you get the bolt cutters. You use the bolt cutters to get in through that door, and then you go into the east office with the bolt cutters.
Yeah.
So if you did what the game wants you to do and run by all the zombies in the hallway there, like the first time you're in that hallway after you get the notebook, all those fucking zombies are still there. So when you come back, you got the one zombie that you ran by in the room who broke through the door. You got the one that came through the window. You got three of them. You got Joe the janitor who came out of the janitor room. You got the two other zombies. So you got, 6 zombies right there. And then you go into the room and there's a zombie in there. There's a zombie in the office, I think. Maybe not. Let's say not. You got one that comes through the window. And the fucked up part is like, the original zombies kind of followed you. So you got at least 2 zombies from both sides coming into that office, plus the zombies that are in there. And all of a sudden you're fucking surrounded by a lot of zombies. So sometimes it is worth it to kill them. And you could still do the old Resident Evil thing and save ammo by knocking them over and knifing them, but knives are finite.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say that that's worth it. I'd say knives are better for defense because you don't take damage from a grab. And you will get grabbed. No matter how good you are, you will get grabbed because sometimes zombies will just do 180 on you.
It depends on if you're doing a speed run or what difficulty you're on. Like, I still killed zombies on the ground with a knife and ended the game on standard with a lot of health and a lot of ammo. If you know something's coming up, it can be worth it to take the hit and use a healing item if you have a lot of healing. It's a lot like the old games, though. You gotta just kind of look at what you have and see if it's worth it. If you have a lot of health and no ammo, maybe try to run by shit without killing them. Speedruns is more difficult, though. I mean, I'm not a speedrunner or anything. I beat the game, the second scenario, with a rocket launcher at 57 minutes. And there are people who beat the game in 57 minutes legit, so that's not a very good time. Because you could skip quite a bit when you don't need to pick up anything. You don't need to get really any of the inventory upgrades. I mean, you can. It makes it easier, but you don't have to. You don't really need to pick up health or ammo. You just have your rocket launcher. You can skip the diamond key completely as Leon. There's a few skips you can do, but there's still people beating the game faster than I can with a rocket launcher. That's why I don't time myself or take it too seriously. I just do it for fun when I feel like it. So yeah, what else?
I mean, it's such a good fucking game.
Oh yeah, so whoever came into my stream yesterday and was like, play Fortnite, play a good game. Fuck you. It doesn't really get much better than this.
Yeah.
And if you think that Fortnite is better, then you deserve each other.
I think I'm not a giant fan of Resident Evil games. I liked 7 a lot. But 7 was lacking. It felt like there was not as much substance in terms of puzzles, I guess, is what I would say. It has
there definitely wasn't.
Feel.
And I think part of that was the development time they put into VR, which we never got to experience because it was exclusive to PlayStation. Thanks game exclusivity. You make the whole world better for gamers. Fucking assholes.
And if anybody doubts that, there's the items in that game are hidden underneath things because you're supposed to be looking with a headset behind and underneath things, and that's why when you get the X-ray specs, you find a bunch of fucking items you never thought were anywhere because they were obviously in places that you could not even fucking possibly know.
Yeah.
But I'm also at the same time not a giant fan of regular Resident Evil games. I don't like the fixed camera thing is okay. I don't mind it. It's okay.
Well, you played them all kind of after the fact.
I wouldn't say they're my favorite type of game. They're fun. I'm not going to say that they're bad. In my opinion, Resident Evil was missing something in terms of just the play style, I think, more than anything, because I think the reason why I like 7 is because the atmosphere is great. You get the sound of the creaks and all these different things, the shit falling over, and you're not entirely sure what the hell the noise was. You know, you think there's somebody on the other side of the wall, but it's just some sounds the developer put in the game, and that adds this atmosphere that immerses you in that environment. But at the same time, Resident Evil 7 is lacking a lot of the puzzles and things like that. You do get the item collection, which is fun, but you don't get a lot of the puzzles that you don't really get in a Resident Evil game, which is one of the more fun aspects is solving something and moving forward, making progress. I don't, just also the item collection is really fun, and I think 7 got that to a decent degree. But the original games don't really have that atmosphere. I mean, as a young kid, I remember being a little frightened of Resident Evil
it's
games.
just because you're used to seeing modern games, and it doesn't really work retroactively that way. But they were pretty fucking atmospheric back in the day.
Even as a kid, I remember just being scared of like certain aspects of the game, not necessarily. Like, I wasn't afraid of Resident Evil while walking around. I was afraid of the things that were happening, like Nemesis chasing you around was super fucking scary. Or, you know, the first zombie encounter in Resident Evil 1, that was scary. But just walking around was never something that was frightening to me. And even in modern day times, there's the atmosphere, if it was there, should still be there. Certainly on the remake, they do a good job.
I think 3 had the best atmosphere. Just that bleak, fucking ruined city.
Yeah.
That was probably the best one.
I think 4 had some decent atmosphere. 5,
yeah, if it looked better. It was just too muddy. That was the era of fucking brown and gray color palettes for some reason.
Yeah, well, it saves on space, man. Yeah, I would love to see Resident Evil 4 remade and then give it the Resident Evil 2 treatment, in that you're not fucking escorting idiot around all the time. That would be nice.
It's good. I think people are finally starting to come to their senses after, you know, however many years.
Well, they clearly learned the lesson on Resident Evil 2 with Sherry, because she doesn't follow you around and get left behind if you get too fast ahead of her. Yeah, which is great.
But a lot of people this is what I've figured out. It's the more, I used to think that people really love Resident Evil 4, like everyone, that was their favorite. It really only goes for the vocal non-fans, you know? Because nowadays I see more and more people complaining about Resident Evil 4. And it's all the same shit that I've been saying, that, you know, the whole game is half the game is an escort quest. Just fucking annoying. And it's not a Resident Evil game. I mean, sure, it did a lot of things right in terms of like an action shooter. I mean, it invented the over-the-shoulder camera angle, so props to that. That's not a Resident Evil game.
Right.
And then they kind of went with that.
Before that of all the Resident Evils, my favorite one isn't 4. I do think 4 is good. It's one of my top 3 before this game. Resident Evil 4 was probably my 3rd favorite. And that's just because of the ambience that it gives and the over-the-shoulder. I'm a big fan of over-the-shoulder. I love Dead Space and games like Metal Gear Solid and things like that. With the third-person camera, I think works really well, especially tied up on the back on the character. It adds a little bit of claustrophobia.
No, you have to, because if you don't have that really close camera, then you kind of lose that whole, like you said, claustrophobic feeling that the originals gave.
As humans, one of our back is our weakest thing. I mean, and play a horror game in the middle of the night with nobody at your house, and then put your back to the rest of your house, you're going to be looking behind you every now and then.
Yeah, you don't like clowns? Just, randomly, I'm going to give you a thought. I'm going to inception you. And this thought is going to pop into your head one day. If you don't like clowns, think of your worst fear. Like your scariest monster you've seen from like horror movies or video games or whatever. And when you're in the dark alone, don't even have to be playing a horror game, but when you're in the dark alone, just picture that thing right behind you. And you'll get this weird little feeling that someone's watching you.
It'll tickle your back. It's a natural human thing because our backs are our weakest. That's why we feel comfortable with our backs to a wall or somebody up against our back or back to back with somebody laying in a bed or whatever. You maybe you even feel more comfortable with your bed in the corner of a room or away from a door or something like that. That's just how humans are. So when you pull that camera up on the character like that, you're imitating that sensation and that you can't see behind you. That's the purpose of those cameras. And I think that works really well. Whereas with the old style cameras of Resident Evil, you don't really get that. I mean, you do get the, there are other aspects of it, but for me personally, I don't get that same sensation. I disconnects me from the character.
The thing is like in the old games, they could place the zombies and place the camera so that every time you went around a corner, that whole uncertainty of not knowing what's coming around the corner. Well, that's how they had to do it back then.
I know, but I think it's just cheesy because then there's no way to know.
There is. You have auto aim, so you can kind of aim and see if anything's there, but you also don't want to shoot blindly because you don't know how much ammo you're wasting.
Yeah, I prefer.
I mean, it worked for the day. For back in the day.
Yeah, listen, I understand the limitations on hardware and why they did things that they did. And I think a Resident Evil style fixed camera indie game could work today, not even necessarily survival horror. I think it could work, but I still think that hiding enemies off screen is a little cheesy. That's just an opinion I have. And I think it works better as I'm just explaining why 4
the point is it was all intentional back then. The jump scares and all the shit that happens now is all organic.
Of course.
Like you'll be shooting at something and you'll think a zombie behind you is dead and you'll have this false sense of security. And guess what? It's not dead.
Yeah. Now, this game emulates that, and I'll get to that in a second really well. But like, I'm just explaining why 4 is so high on my list, top 3, because 4 has a lot of shitty mechanics I don't like. I don't like no boxes. I love the box system in Resident Evil. I like the idea of going to a box and dropping everything off because it gets me to get into a loop system. Because I don't want to go backwards. I'd prefer to continue forwards and loop around to something. And if I'm going backwards, I feel like I'm doing it wrong or in an incorrect order or something. I'm an efficiency person. So I like to figure out that efficient route. And then 4 doesn't have that. It's just one big case, and that's it takes away.
Yeah, and see, that's why a lot of the fucking more casual gamers love 4 is because you never really need to worry about inventory. I mean, you do at some times, and you have to like rearrange shit or drop a grenade or two, but that's about it. There's really no item management. I
don't like money collection. I don't like that I have to wait for a zombie to disappear before I collect the money. I don't like that. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. Buying the weapons and things like that. I'd rather find them in secret places and things like that. That's more enjoyable to me than just buying them. I do think they did a lot of systems right with like infinite ammo and all that, but I don't like the Las Plagas. I hate the idea of, we got guys that throw shit at you and stuff like that. That's just lame.
Yeah.
Really lame. And Resident Evil 2 Remake proves that you don't even need that kind of shit. I get that it's a lot of that game is out in the open, so that's why they wanted to do that. But I don't know. It's kind of stupid.
It's fucking stupid. It reminds me of like those old arcade shooters, like in the actual arcade with the light gun. It's like they throw something and it comes at you really fucking slowly, and you shoot it out of the air. And yeah,
it also feels like a wasted bullet when you shoot the thing out of the air, even though it shouldn't. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like the feeling of it's so weird. They run at you and then they get a certain distance from you and they just stop and start walking. That's fucking lame. That's really lame. That's one of the things I like about Resident Evil 2 Remake is sometimes a zombie will just slowly meander around. Other times they'll have bad pathing issues because they're made to be that way. They're just, they're terrible at it. Sometimes they're fucking really good at it. They'll shamble over to you really quickly. Again, I think that should be more of a variety based off of the look of the zombie and not really random, but that's whatever. I mean, we live in the age of random with fucking battle royales and shit. But another thing about 4 that I don't like is the idea that you are not rewarded for shooting in the head. I think Resident Evil 2 Remake does a good job here. Right. Like, if you shoot something in the head in Resident Evil 4, sometimes you're punished because it just becomes stronger. In Resident Evil 2 Remake, this doesn't happen. I mean, certainly you can shoot something in the head multiple times and it doesn't explode. But to be fair, even though it is random, it is nice. It is interesting when you get 1 or 2 shots and it pops a zombie's head and you're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it feels really good.
I also like to sometimes, now that I've played the game a lot, I like to go through the game and kind of role play a little bit. I like to shoot the zombies till they stop moving. So I shoot a zombie, it goes down, and I leave it there. I know it's probably going to get up. I know I could walk over there. Even if I'm using an infinite ammo weapon, I know I can walk over there and shoot all its limbs off or something. I just kind of play it like I think Claire would do it. Yeah, she'd shoot it, it goes down, she stopped. Maybe it gets up behind me and it causes a problem. I think that's fun.
You fucking die. Whoops.
Well, I think that's fun. I think it's fun to have this situation where I shoot a zombie, I go past it, and I encounter another zombie, and then this one's getting up behind me, and now I'm backed into a corner, and it creates a more intense situation. That's what they were going for, I believe, and it does a good job at it. And sometimes it's fun to play through the game like that again and get that sensation and feeling. But that's why, but 4 is up on my list for a couple of reasons, and there's a couple of reasons why it's not my favorite. Obviously, the escort quest is really fucking terrible. Some of the location is just meh. South America bullshit, man. Like, who wants to go to South America?
It's not South America. It's Spain.
Is it Spain? Whatever.
It's actual Spain.
Same thing. It feels like South America every time.
The biggest thing for me is I don't understand how so many people can claim to love 4 but hate 5 when 5 is just more of 4.
5 is a better version of 4 to some degree, but then the reason why I put 5 right below 4 is because of the two character thing. Everybody had a lot of backlash at Dead Space 3 because you could co-op it. There's this weird thing that gamers do where they're like, you should be forced to play the game the way I play it. I don't like that you can potentially play it another way. So you can play Dead Space 3 as Isaac Clarke all by yourself and never have the co-op character even exist around you except for in cutscenes. And it feels just like any Dead Space game would. And or you can play with a friend and you have another character there next to you the whole time, and it's still just as interesting.
Yeah, I would have preferred Resident Evil 5 to be that way, where if you play it solo, right, Sheva isn't even there.
But
being
as I was saying,
AI Sheva is still better than AI Ashley Graham.
That's true. But in Resident Evil 5, you have to have Sheva behind you at all times, and it can kind of detract you from the aspect of it. You know, being swole, buff ass Chris and having this hot chick behind you, it feels like that was moving more towards the action game that Resident Evil 6 became. I'm not saying it's bad. It plays better than 4. It still has the Plagas bullshit or whatever the fuck, which is still a fucking problem. And there's some interesting, unique enemies that are fun. I would say that's my number 4 pick. But I think in terms of top 2, I've always held that like Resident Evil 1 and 2 are kind of right there, neck and neck for 1. Like I don't know which one to put there, but my second favorite is 7, and then number 1 is Resident Evil 2 or 1, and I'm never really sure which one's my favorite because I don't know. I think 1 is really good, but then 2 is kind of better than 1. I don't know. It's always been I don't know.
My order changes all the time. If I had to put it in order right now, Resident Evil 2 Remake is number 1. Resident Evil 1 Remake is number 2. Underneath that, probably 3, 2, the original, Code Veronica, 1, the original.
Well, I'm not going to rate all of them.
I mean, there's a lot more than that I don't even get to.
But
there's the Revelations games that I don't put in there. I'm just talking about main series. There's all the spin-offs, fucking Operation Raccoon City, Umbrella Corps, the fucking Dead Aim games or the Survivor games.
But the things that Resident Evil 1 and 2 are missing, and the thing that Resident Evil 7 is missing, I think Resident Evil 1 and 2 and Resident Evil 7 come together and form Resident Evil 2 Remake. And for me, it perfects Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a perfection of what Resident Evil should be. It has that atmosphere, that choked up camera on your back with the third person view, the usage of the flashlight in dark areas. Really well done. And then it has all the aspects of the puzzles of Resident Evil 1 and 2 and the just not even like crazy elaborate shit, but you get actual zombies and you shoot them in the head, you get rewarded at times. It's fantastic. It all works. Even like the weird shit. Even the weird shit like Birkin running around screaming.
Oh, well, chat says that they would like a Silent Hill 2 remake, and yeah, wouldn't everyone, but good luck, because it's fucking Konami.
I've never
Konami
played
will never
Silent
do
Hill. Never played Silent Hill.
All you need to play is 2, honestly.
But I could agree with you that it'll probably never get remade because, you know, Japanese game developers are making a comeback lately. Maybe Konami will come around. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll lose the license to it.
Yeah, that might be the best bet, actually.
I still have
gives up the Silent Hill license.
I still have a future prediction that at some point in Kojima's life, he will get Metal Gear Solid's rights back at some point, whether he wants them or not. He'll regain them. At some point in his life, right now, he doesn't want to do more Metal Gear Solid because he's got all these ideas that he's got in his head that he wants to make. But I give it 10 to 20 years and Kojima will be going, I really like to go back to Metal Gear Solid and do some stuff I missed out on. You know, I can give it
Metal Gear Solid 5 DLC.
Right.
Gonna finish director's cut.
Director's cut. But yeah, I don't think Silent Hill will get a remake. I think Resident Evil 1 needs to be remade like this. 100%.
I know. See, that's the
probably
problem.
Next on the list.
That's the problem. There are so many Resident Evil games, and as soon as like the most recent one comes out, everyone wants every game remade like that. I mean, honestly, they're not going to do this, and I don't know if they should, but they could. They could take Resident Evil 1 through 4, including Code Veronica, and just keep remaking them over and over and live off that. That could be Capcom's lifeblood forever.
I don't know if you can get better than this, though. I think there is a limitation.
Well, I mean, not at the moment, but, you know, in a couple years, you know, the engine improvements, visual improvements.
Visually you could, but in terms of gameplay, I don't think you can get better than this. I think there's a limitation on gameplay. You look at a game like The Last of Us, everybody thinks it's a pretty perfect. I don't think gameplay wise it's at its
I mean, gameplay wise, it's not that great. The story is really good and it's really well acted.
The second one looks like it's coming up pretty serious in terms of adding to more unique gameplay. I think Metal Gear Solid 5 is a good example too. I don't know if you can get better in the gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 5. Aside from just adding more things to do, I don't know if you get better in terms of the gameplay. I mean, what can you do to improve that gameplay? Honestly, I mean, you can look at something like Metal Gear Survive and see how they took the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 5 and pulled it over. And you can't really say that the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 5 could be better. The only thing you could say is the content could be better. Like, you know, the how far you can build out or multiple bases or like freedom to build anywhere and stuff like that are some of the issues with that. Not so much the gameplay. So I think at this point we've reached a Resident Evil content desire. And I'm actually disappointed that the next these three free DLCs are going to have to do with random characters, these ghost survivors.
Well, the thing is it's still a remake, so anything you add canonically has a chance of taking away from, you know, the core of Resident Evil 2. You know, so when they add new stuff, it can't be like, Leon, the story continues, right? It's got to be
Well,
side characters.
I would love
battle
to see,
modes.
I'm talking about just things like A and B scenario differences. Like, I'd love to see a C scenario. Like,
I know, and the C scenario should be
original.
Resident Evil 3. Jill's scenario.
Well, I would say C scenario could be the original version, C and D. It could be the original versions in terms of layout. You start off out in the streets and you run to the basketball court, and you come in from there into the front door, and then everything is modified to be the original version. There's one medallion, and you get the one medallion and put it on the statue, like, and get the
well, it's still a company trying to make money. Is that going to make them more money? And if the answer is no, they're probably not going to do it. I don't think that would really help out Capcom. I know it's still kind of a fan service, but I don't think they're going to add anything.
I'm just saying, I hope they do. Easy to do. I feel like that would be way easier than thinking up 3 different fucking stories that are separate. I mean, the DLC for 7 was pretty lackluster, and it was pretty disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, but there was a lot of it, and it was really varied.
There was a lot of it.
I had no
complaints.
complaints.
It was interesting, but it could have been better. I don't know. 7 felt really short to some degree.
Well, I mean, I guess it was, but I mean, Resident Evil games are generally pretty short, and they're meant to be replayed. I don't know, chat. I think Resident Evil 7 was scary. I mean, as scary as a game can be. I mean, I don't get fucking terrified of video games anymore. But it had the atmosphere, and it had some jump scares and stuff, and a lot of them would have worked a lot better in VR, admittedly, but...
Yeah, I think that game was made for VR. I mean, the father was a scary figure, and it was nice to, on subsequent playthroughs, to go down to the basement and finish him off so you can roam around the house without worrying about him. It's less about a scary thing and more of like, it's like Tyrant in Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's not so much scary as it is intense. It's very intense to have this guy chasing you around. But I will say Resident Evil 2 Remake is the quintessential pinnacle of Resident Evil for me. It's what Resident Evil was missing to have somebody like me be a giant fan of the series. If you can do more of this, I'm on board. Because with 50 hours into this game, I can still just boot it up and play at any time, and it's still fun. It's just like Metal Gear Solid 5 for me. I can boot it up and play it any time, and it's still fun, despite the repetitiveness that I've been going. And I have a really hard time with repetition. Things get really boring for me fast.
Well, the moment-to-moment stuff isn't always repetitive, right? And there's like zombies that sometimes you pop their heads and sometimes they put you in a really shitty position.
Well,
or you could do what I was doing yesterday.
Really
like
fun.
Yesterday,
it's really fun to shoot zombies in this game.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I played through and did a legit Claire run, and then I did a Claire run with just the submachine gun, and then I did a Leon run with just the pistol.
It's immersion more than anything for me too. Like the reason why I love. I'm the kind of guy that plays survival games like 7 Days to Die and shit like that and walks around. I'm the kind of guy that will play, I will walk in some games just because I want to immerse myself for a little bit. Eventually I'll get bored of it and start jogging on and shit, but I will actually walk in some games because I'm trying to immerse myself. And Resident Evil immerses you really well in the remake. To a heavy degree, like when I'm running around doing the when we were doing all the speed runs, not so immersive, sort of the whole running around thing.
It's just gives you something different to do. Like, yeah, I can keep doing speed runs exclusively and try to get faster and faster, but every now and then I want to. Pretend like it's the first time, because that's really, you play the game the first time and you're blown away, and then it's like chasing the dragon after that. Like, you'll never get your first playthrough back. You'll never walk into a room and be like, what the fuck do I do here? Yeah. That never happens anymore. But part of the fun is also replaying it and trying to get more efficient at it and plan for what's ahead. And you lose some of that with the infinite ammo, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to shoot shit and you don't want all the tension. And then sometimes you do. And it gives you all the options to do that. It's kind of like what Resident Evil games have always done.
I prefer to play it slower. I love the immersion that the game naturally offers me. is what I'm saying. That's so the least fun I had playing this game was doing the speed runs, but I was only doing that to unlock the weapons. Once I got beyond that point, it was really fun to just, I mean, because everybody was doing their hardcore speed runs while I was still going through Claire B for the first time, because I was just enjoying to take my time. I didn't even want to speed run the Leon B, Claire A's, because it was my first time playing those. I didn't want to speed run those. So I actually repeat Leon A for my speed run.
Yeah, chat. Resident Evil 2 has unlimited ammo. If you beat standard mode with an S rank, you get an unlimited ammo pistol. You beat hardcore mode with an S rank, you get an unlimited ammo submachine gun. And if you beat hardcore mode with an S plus rank, you get a rocket launcher. If you beat it as Leon, or a minigun if you beat it as Claire. Or you can also get a trainer and just get unlimited ammo for whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah, go with the trainer. It's more enjoyable, because one of the things I loved about 7 was you got an item that when it was in your inventory, it took up inventory space, but at the same time, it would give you unlimited ammo for whatever you were carrying. That was cool, especially with like the special bullets and all that. But in this game, you just get specific weapons. There's specific weapons that you get access to, and they're not as good as some of these guns that they give you throughout the game. Like, I want to play with infinite ammo for, you know, one of my favorite guns in the game, the JMB HP3. That's
chat. That's what I'm saying. If you think part of the fun is conserving your ammo and being careful with your shots and resources, I agree, that is part of the fun, but it's also stressful. And the game is so much fun to play that sometimes you just want to have a fuck around run, right? No one's forcing you to use these guns. They're in your item box, and you could just never touch them.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth. Sometimes I do legit runs with no infinite ammo, and sometimes I just take a fucking rocket launcher and beat it as fast as I can.
To be fair, though, this game gives you a lot of fucking ammo.
Yeah, well, it didn't feel that way the first time.
Yeah, it didn't feel that way the first time, because you didn't know where everything was at.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why, you can make it harder on yourself. You can switch over to hardcore mode where they give you less resources and everything takes more bullets to kill. And if that's still too easy, you can just try to do it faster. Or use only a pistol. They give you a lot of different options. They don't really force you to do anything. But that's just me, Like, I want to play the game. Now it's like, how do I want to play it? Do I want to put on the military Claire outfit and destroy everything, or just do it the way it was intended? I mean, the first time I beat it on standard. And I did not finish the game with like 10 full healings and all kinds of ammo and 47 magnum rounds. But when I beat it on standard legit now, I do. And yeah, we've beaten the game. I have to have beaten it 20 times or more by now. At least. Yeah. Many, many times. Gabbler's probably beaten it almost that many times. 15 maybe. 15 times.
Something like that. A ridiculous amount.
Sorry, vape break. What else? The characters are still pretty true to the original. Kind of like, I think Leon, they did a better job of making him seem like a naive rookie cop, because he is. Claire, I don't know. I don't really read college student from her. Never have. But Chris Redfield being her brother, maybe she's just a badass. Who knows? But in terms of like character design, like all the Birkins, mostly kind of resemble what they did in the original. The final form before he turns into a giant toothy vagina. In the original, it was kind of like a lion. He's not really a lion in this game. Super Tyrant's accurate.
Like an actual form now.
Yes, chat. We've beaten the original. Of course, we've beaten the original. I've beaten all of them.
I think, and the thing with the Tyrant, I think those changes. The reason why they didn't change the Tyrant is because he's had so many iterations throughout different Resident Evil series. They've pretty much settled on what they want him to look like. But with Birkin and the G, like, there's only one game that he's in.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, let's perfect this. Let's take an opportunity here.
They definitely did the transformations pretty well in this game. They couldn't really back in the day, but in this one, like, you actually see him morphing from, all his forms.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing.
Yeah, he's pretty fucked up dude. And they do a pretty good job in Claire's scenario of kind of making it apparent that he's more of a threat than the Tyrant is, because he just fucking one-shots the Tyrant.
Oh, he destroys the Tyrant, yeah.
Just basically rips him in half. It's, I don't know, it's pretty satisfying, but pretty terrifying, too, the first time you go through that. You're like, oh, fuck. Is this a boss fight? I only have a pistol.
Yeah, they put you in that fight pretty early on.
And, the other thing that's kind of interesting is that they take away a lot of the city portion. Like, there's hardly any of the city in the beginning of the game. And you kind of go back out into it a little bit later in the game, but it's the same problem I had, and it's kind of the same reason I liked Resident Evil 3 better than the original Resident Evil 2, is because the city part was probably my favorite part. And you didn't get to see enough of it in 2. And 3, that's where like 75% of the game takes place, and that's why I want them to remake 3. I want to see this city like fleshed out, And 3 is when they really started introducing like respawning zombies. Like, they don't really respawn, but they reset. So like, you can kill all the zombies in an area and you can come back and backtrack a few times, but then there's something you do that triggers all these enemies to show up again. And that's why it seems more like an action type of game. They give you a lot more ammo and stuff because you're supposed to be killing these zombies more instead of just like, well, I got to backtrack through here a bunch, so I'll kill them, but I'm only going in here once, so we'll just dodge. So that's why I'm kind of hopeful, but worried that if they try to do it with this new system, then it's going to turn into Resident Evil 5, but I don't know. Wow, I just noticed I got this Resident Evil wallpaper pack from Steam, and Leon's gun says Machilda on it. Machilda.
What?
Even though it's called the Matilda.
The fuck?
I know, right? Is it a code or something? Did I miss something? What's it mean? In the original, if you checked all your guns, they would actually tell you the real life gun that it is, and here they just make up names.
Right.
The Leon's gun is the VP-70, but in the game it's the Matilda. Also, in the B scenario, they give you his M19, which is a 1911.
I missed that last close. 2 numbers on it.
The submachine gun is an LE5, but it's really an MP5. And then I think Claire's submachine gun, what do they call it? MC11?
Pistol or light weapon.
Well, what do they call it? It's an MC11 or something? Or it's really just a Mac 11?
Or what?
Or submachine gun. What do they call it? Yeah. It's like an MC11, right?
Something like that.
It's weird. I don't know why games started doing this. Desert Eagle is the Lightning Hawk. Fuck, man. Couldn't even call it like the Lightning Eagle. I don't know. Not really a complaint. Just pointing it out. Kind of weird. I thought they were going to do more of the enhanced ammo thing like they did in 7. But there's only, 2 guns so you can change the ammo for it? It's the grenade launcher and Claire's revolver. I thought they were going to do more like Resident Evil 3 did it. If you made enough ammo out of gunpowder, eventually you start making enhanced ammo. You could just put the enhanced ammo in your pistol and it would just work better. It wouldn't be a Magnum, but it would work better. That would have been something kind of cool to add in. You make enough handgun ammo. Eventually you start making better handgun ammo. Maybe it's like a guaranteed stagger or higher crit chance or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But, that's first of all, maybe DLC, maybe they'll change some stuff, Maybe they'll add extra modes. We'll see. I don't know if I'd rather have them do that or start working on Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
I just want more of
it. The DLC is probably mostly done in terms of ideas. We've already seen some concept art in the game that you unlock, which in my opinion, probably stuff that's going into DLC. I know there's sections that say unused. And people talked about the factory not being in the game. There's a concept art that says unused where it looks like he's out in the city and he's approaching some kind of Umbrella Corps building that has it looks like those big fucking power line towers, but then it seems to have some kind of tram trolley thing going up to the mountains, and up in the mountains is what looks to be a factory. So we might end up going to the factory in one of these ghost survivor things, because typically they don't typically waste stuff like that.
Well, it wouldn't be a waste if they never modeled it, if it ended at concept.
True, but I mean, I'm just expecting to see some of these things. Like there's the gunshot kendo artwork where you actually see him in I'm imagining off in this room that he went into when he stormed away, where he's got his daughter behind a curtain and he's messing with things. And then it shows the gun shop, and he's got all the windows boarded up and things like that. And I'm wondering if, that's going towards some of their ideas of that thing. And then of course there's the interesting concept art of I don't know if it's what they wanted the liquor to be originally. I don't know if it was going to be like they start as regular zombies and then later in the game hatch into liquors, and then you have to deal with liquors later in the game, or if they were actually going to retcon liquors to be a zombie with a long
they probably
tongue.
Just didn't want to retcon it. Probably strayed too far from the whole remake idea. Because in the original, they talk about it a little bit, where they just basically put the T-virus into living tissue, and what comes out is
the liquor. In that concept art, there's also another creature that's, I guess it was going to be an enemy in the labs, where it's basically a really skinny zombie that had like a leg brace on and some tube receptacles in their back.
Oh yeah, that looked pretty fucked up looking.
It was very creepy looking. I don't know what they were going to use that for.
They also have that really fat zombie in a wheelchair, like the electronic wheelchair.
Yeah, like they wanted to have a single zombie that was maybe in an electronic wheelchair, but maybe they decided not to go with that because it was, I don't know. You get these people that come into these, you get these things like this that are done up, and then they bring in regular people and ask them what they think, and you get these fucking clams that are like, it would be offensive. So they pull it. It's like half of the fucking
Well, is it offensive or is it inclusive? Fucking pick one,
Right. It's like half of the games and movies that pulled a bunch of shit after 9/11 because their shit had towers in it or something.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings almost like changed the name because they didn't want to call it the Two Towers. Like, come on.
Right. So stupid. But there's a lot of cool segments like that you don't get to see. I mean, there's still art of the factory, even though it doesn't say unused. It's still some of the factory art. I'd like to see, hopefully they do some stuff. And actually, one of the interesting things is there is artwork in there that looks like they were drawing it with the idea originally to be static camera, like a fixed camera situation, a lot of the
well, I know they were thinking about doing fixed camera. Like that wasn't always set in stone that they were going to do over the shoulders.
So they certainly have some scenes that are drawn like cutouts almost. So maybe that's still a possibility in the future, like a static camera mode. I think it could work.
Well, the thing is there hasn't really been a Resident Evil in the modern age like this where you can just go in and patch shit or add things. So they can go and decide like, hey, we're going to just support this game for the next 6 months, and we're going to make a first-person mode and a fixed camera mode, and we're going to add New Game Plus, and we're going to add this and that, and you can still play the original the way it came out, but then they could add all this other stuff in a new mode too, just to fuck around with. I mean, I'd like to see like there was this mod that came out not too long ago for the original Resident Evil 2, and I don't remember what it was called, but basically it moved all the item placements around, and the enemies are like there's a lot more fucking enemies. You get like multiple handguns. You move faster. You can hop back when you're using the knife. You're supposed to use the knife more, and it completely changes the game. And you know they can just do that on their own now.
Yeah.
Like, what if, the helicopter explodes and the alarm goes off and all those zombies that are banging on the outside perimeter come in, and now you got to deal with fucking horde mode. You got to board up the windows and...
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things
man.
that can come off of this, yeah.
But, not counting Resident Evil 6, because I don't, this is actually the first over-the-shoulder Resident Evil where you actually fight zombies. And I don't remember if it was an interview, but they had said something like, when they came out with Resident Evil 4, they had to make the enemies more aggressive and intelligent because the over-the-shoulder made it too easy to aim or something.
I know that you can do this on PC probably at some point, and some people will just do it, but I'd love to see more game developers do things like, you can just play as Ada. You don't, here's Trenchcoat Ada, and that's the model you're playing as instead of, it's technically
Claire, you can do that on PC. There's already model swaps. Someone found a Chris Redfield file in the data, and now you can play as Chris Redfield if you want from 7.
I really just wish developers would naturally add that kind of shit in. It'd be really nice. Because Hunk's model's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them on PC because I look for mods just to see. I was curious, and pretty much so far it's all model swaps or skins. Like, there's actually one that's pretty cool, which is Leon's Noir skin, but he has a red shirt instead of a white shirt. Like, yeah, whatever, but it's kind of cool. And then you got like, you can play as Hunk, you can play as Chris, or you can play as Ada. And then there's some where you can play as the alternate costumes without the weird hairdos or hats they have on. So you could be like Sheriff Leon, but with his original head. And that's about the extent of the mod so far. I mean, the original's been out for years, and there's still not a whole lot of mods, but probably because it's so hard to get your hands on the PC version of it. But we can always pray that they decide to support the game. Because it's weird, there's never been a Resident Evil game where they can actually continue to support it. I mean, kind of with 7, but they gave up on 7. Because, they did, yeah. The VR, they said it was a 1-year exclusive to PlayStation, and it never came out.
Well, it was their bounce back. 7 was their bounce because 6 was complete trash and another failure.
Well, it wasn't. It made money. It sold a lot of copies.
It made some money because people were excited about another Resident Evil, but the fans didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I think that was apparent. And they bounced back with 7. 7 was super popular. And I think a lot of that, to be fair, and people got to watch out for this, especially game developers. I think a lot of that had to do with this game culture of, hey, here's the next big game. I get to be a part of it because that's gaming culture, and I want to be a part of gaming culture. And then, now you're in this fucking loop of everybody bought your game, but maybe your fan base doesn't really like it.
Yeah, but that's kind of what happened with 7. Like, according to them, 6 sold more than 7, but 7 was better received, so they decided to go back and start making Resident Evil games more like 7, going back to their old style. Which, good for them, Like, we can keep making 6, making it ridiculously action-oriented, and probably make money that way, but they can make almost as much money just making a good fucking Resident Evil game.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope they're not as dumb as they sound, saying like, well, we'll make 3 if the demand is high enough. Like, fuck you! I don't know how you could look at the last week of Resident Evil 2 being out and the hype that was generated and being like, yeah, it was okay.
It was all right.
I guess time will tell, though, what they decide to do with that information.
Her submachine gun is an MQ-11, by the way.
Yeah. So, Mac 11.
Mac 11.
We get it, Capcom. Good one.
LE5. Le 5.
Yeah. MP5, LE5. The other ones I don't even know. Claire's other handgun is like the JMB something.
JMB HP3. That's the one with the laser sight.
High power HP. Browning
And then
high power.
Then there's the SLS 60 as her revolver she starts with.
Yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be.
There's a legit gun that exists like that. It's probably one of the stupidest looking guns on the planet, but thing. The Matilda. And then fucking Ada has a broom HC. Like, come on, man. That's a James Bond fucking...
Well, if you read the description, it says it's a limited run and there was only 5,000 made.
Yeah, they're using like because the Matilda and the broom HC in the game look so similar. I'm pretty sure the broom is based off of a
Walther,
a different type of Walther than the Matilda. Maybe like the PPK is the broom and Matilda is a different version.
No, well, the Matilda is the VP70. That's the
MUP is a fucking Glock, by the way, pretty much.
What is?
USP maybe. The MUP.
Oh yeah, it's probably a USP.
Yeah, it looks like a USP, and then the M19 is an M1911. The JMB is an M1911, by the way. If you look at that gun without the laser sight, it's an M1911. It's the same exact model as the M19, pretty much.
Yeah, but it like shoots 9mm rounds. Mighty.
They all shoot 9mm rounds.
No, the Colt and the M19 shoot 45, which is another weird thing. So if you play on B scenario, all the 9mm handgun ammo switches to 45 caliber. And you have to use either the Colt revolver, which what do they call it? The quick draw something?
Yeah.
Yeah. As Claire, or the M19 as Leon. And first of all, you can't get upgrades for those guns. And they claim that they're supposed to be more powerful than the regular handgun. Pardon me. But they don't seem like they are. And when you make handgun ammo out of gunpowder, you still get 9mm.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know what they were doing with that.
Yeah, like why?
They should have just, this is how I thought it worked. I thought I fucked up and like, oh, if you pick up the gun or you pick up the 45 in that room, then all the ammo changes. Well, it changes whether you pick it up or not. But that's how they should have done it, right? If you don't pick up the gun, then everything just stays 9mm. Because I don't like them as much.
45 in somehow.
Well, I mean, it kind of fucks you up because now you have to, if you're on hardcore and you're really trying to do it efficiently and manage your resources, you got to worry about two different types of handgun ammo. All the stuff you make and then all the stuff you find. So I don't know. I don't really get what they were doing with that, but they did. It's weird. So, Anthem.
I'm excited to play it. I'm going to go hardcore on it.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to say about it.
Seems okay.
I like the fast-paced combat.
I just hope that it offers more than the demo. I mean, I know it will because it's just a fucking demo, but it doesn't really have me hyped. I'm not blown away by it. I mean, it's fun. I don't know if it's going to, entertain us for more than a month or two. The UI is kind of non-intuitive. I'm sure that'll be fine after a couple weeks, but... And oddly enough, I played the closed alpha, and the alpha ran better than the demo. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if the alpha's newer or what.
I think just because it's a vertical slice, it's garbage.
But what does that even mean?
I don't fucking know.
Like, you're just repeating the marketing jargon. It's a vertical slice. Okay. From when? I'm assuming that means you get a little bit of everything the game has to offer. A little bit of walking around in the fort, a little bit of the free open world stuff, and a little bit of a dungeon, a little bit of story missions, and that's it. But if the full game is just more of that, I mean, I don't know. I hope it does well. I hope BioWare sticks around and keeps making games because I generally enjoy their games. I'm not a huge super fan like a lot of people are. Dragon Age was, pretty good. I didn't like Mass Effect. I don't know why. I couldn't really get into them. I think it's just daunting. You go into these games and you realize there's a huge fucking game world and that there's all this stuff to do. And you're like, I just don't like the actual game enough to put that kind of time into it. I played the first Mass Effect for like an hour. Maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Gotta get into it. The story's really good.
Well, that's what people say, but I couldn't. Because I never played
the
the first one.
Resident Evil, you gotta look past it at some point.
Yeah, but there's not really a time investment with that. Like those kind of games, I don't want to half-ass it. It's like playing Skyrim and then just doing the main story and calling it a day.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So that's what I have to say. How about you, Gabler?
I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
You heard it here, folks. What else about Anthem? Yeah, the alpha, I was really surprised that it played that well. Like, hey, this is a pretty good looking game and I got it maxed out and it's running fine. And then the demo was the opposite of that. Demo was all kinds of stuttery. I kept getting disconnected. It was kind of weird. All the sounds were like delayed. Sometimes like my gun wouldn't make any gunfire sounds when I shot. Some of the movement is awkward. Like it seems like the game is meant to be played on a larger scale, right? So when you're trying to make those smaller movements, you're constantly like getting trapped on terrain and tripping over yourself, trying to move just a little bit because they don't want you to move just a little bit. The flying is still awkward. Changing the controls helped a little bit, but I gotta just fine tune it or something because it just feels like I'm all over the place with the flying controls. And I never got far enough into the demo to unlock the other javelins, so I've only really experienced one of them. It was fine, but I still don't know if I'm going to go with... I don't think I'm going to go with the Colossus. I think I'm going to go with either the Ranger or... I know you can change it any time, but I'm sure the weapons are a factor that you pick up or break down, so probably one of the faster moving ones is what I'm going with. What are you doing right now? Why are you muted? Tell your wife to shut up.
I can't.
Does she realize, like, this is a live podcast? Tell her to get on Discord if she wants to be a part of it. Did you hear me right now? Go away. We're making money. I was right. It is the wife.
Yeah, it is the wife. Well, I don't have much to say, though. I need to play more of the game before I can say anything.
Yeah, the demo, there wasn't a whole lot there. The story seems interesting. It looks good. Doesn't play great. I'm hoping that gets changed. But I hope it's not just another fucking loot grind loop. Because that's what happens. That's what happens with Destiny. That's what happens with a lot of these games. It's get this open world. And they just expect you to go out into the world and run around. And that's not really what I want to do. I don't want to do the same boring fucking activities over and over and over again, trying to get the perfect fucking drop so that I can increase my damage output by 0.001%. So I can fucking look over at all these other people and be like, hey, look at my damage output. And they can be like, I don't fucking care. That's because that's what happens.
There'll be damage meters in this game, though.
Yeah, well, I know that. Of course, there's not going to be damage. It'd be like having a damage meter for Destiny. It doesn't really make any sense. But still, how many people are actually going around like, man, look at the gear that guy has. I want that gear. So impressive. He must be really good. No, just really lucky. Or really no lifing it.
Well, it's the 13th is when you can preload it, and the 15th you can play it if you got Premiere. So we'll probably play the shit out of it and then see how it goes.
Yeah, well, after Resident Evil, these next couple of weeks are kind of going to be like, well, what do we do? because there's not a whole lot. We still got tabletop. Gonna be doing some tabletop simulator on the weekends if Seth gets his fucking shit together and looks at Discord ever. Monty's usually pretty good about it.
Guy.
Yeah. Once he turned off notifications. Here's the little PSA for all you people out there who use Discord. When you go in, if you ever get annoyed that your phone is blowing up every time someone tags at everyone in one of the many servers you're probably in, you could turn that off, but still get notified when people mention you specifically.
Yeah, Monty.
Talking to you and everyone else out there who doesn't look at Discord whenever they're fucking mentioned in a comment repeatedly. Seth. Yeah, you heard me. So, I thought we had more to talk about with Anthem, but I guess not.
Not really. Most of it was Resident Evil.
All right, well, the most recent thing that I guess we can talk about is Metro Exodus. Comes out the same day as Anthem, and I was going to play it eventually, like maybe a week or two, depending on how Anthem goes. Because I like the first two Metros. They're not really replayable, but this one looked a lot more outdoorsy, exploring post-apocalyptic world and shit. They used RTX, and I got an RTX card, and it looks really good. So I was curious. But then they switched over from Steam to the Epic Store, which, whatever, they want to make more money. But then when people complained about it, they fucking lashed out at the fans. Basically threatening them, saying that, well, if you guys boycott this game on PC, then the next Metro is going to be a console exclusive. Which, as soon as someone tells me to do something, I don't want to fucking do it. So, fuck you, 4K. You know what? You want me to buy your fucking console exclusive Metro? You want to make it on console? Go ahead. Yeah, make it on console and lose fucking 3/4 of your fan base.
I was really worried about Metro anyways.
Well, I mean, I was curious, but they seem to think that there's these hardcore fucking fans out there, and I'm just thinking I don't know anyone who's yeah, Metro's my favorite game ever. Everyone plays it and kind of thinks it's good, and then that's kind of it. No one's jerking off 4K games. It's not like what's the other one? Who's making Cyberpunk? CD Projekt Red?
Yeah, Red Idiot.
Yeah, so they got too fucking big for their britches, and we're going to make it console exclusive if you don't buy it. Well, fine then. Go for it. Plus, I mean, I wouldn't have minded so much, except they didn't just put it on the Epic Store. People have already pre-ordered it on Steam, and then they changed it to the Epic Store. And they're we realize it's kind of an inconvenience for people, but we think that our fans will be willing to take the extra 2 minutes to download the Epic launcher. It's fuck you, man.
Getting paid money to take it off Steam. I don't know why you just wouldn't have it on both.
I don't know if you can.
I think one of the big arguments for the developer is that they don't have Steam takes 30% or something like that.
Yeah, that's why everyone's. Yeah, they take 12%, which is why a lot of people are moving to the Epic Store. But I mean, this is what's going to happen because it's capitalism. Epic's going to offer 12%, and a bunch of franchises are going to move over there. And then Steam is going to lower their fee, and then Epic's going to increase their fee, and they're both going to settle somewhere between 15 and 20%.
Right.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, I don't really care what launcher it's on, and yeah, it's not a bother to fucking download a launcher, but part of it, is fuck Fortnite, and I want to support Epic as little as possible.
Yeah.
And also, I'm fucking tired of having 8 different fucking launchers for all these different games. The whole idea of Steam is that all your games are in one place. Now I got Origin, I got fucking Uplay, I got Steam, I got the Bethesda launcher. It's just fucking annoying.
It's bound to happen eventually. I mean, realistically, it's kind of dumb to focus on your own launcher. I get it. They don't want to have to pay Steam anything, but
but again, like you said, why can't they do both? Is it part of the contract that they can't? Because it doesn't really make sense. You know,
I don't know. Maybe Valve doesn't let them do that. We don't know. For all we know, Valve could be the bad guys here.
I mean, if you're so convinced that there's so many people that love your game, release it on both. If people want to support you guys more, they'll buy it on the Epic Store. But, they're not doing that. They're not letting people make that choice. They're making the choice for us. Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck them.
I'll buy it for $20. I'll buy it for $20 on the summer sale. Oh, wait.
Right. $20
Can't, because there's not going to be an epic summer sale.
Yeah, well, that just means they might start doing their own sales. We'll see.
Yeah, but Metro, if you were a bigger company, or 4K, if you were a bigger company with some more games under your belt that were more popular, maybe, you could have pulled something like this. But as it stands right now, I don't want to play your depressing fucking Russian shooter that takes place in a fucking swampland post-apocalyptic subway system. Fuck off.
Fucking Russians.
Go read the post, because there's some grammatical errors too.
Tell Vladimir Putin I said to blow me.
Yeah, he's probably fucking malware anyway.
All right.
For every person that downloads Metro on the Epic Store, you're contributing to a Hillary Clinton win.
Hillary Clinton win. Thanks, Putin.
It's going to be a write-in.
The Russian 2020 saw the Russians invading with a game called Metro. All right.
So that's it?
This has been fun. I got to go make dinner.
All right. Well, 2 more minutes while we close out. So this is Electronic Gaming Mostly. This is our first live podcast. Nobody's here. So good job. So, well, Salamoni was here for a minute, and Hobbits and Isengard was talking about Resident Evil with us. So thanks for that. This will be uploaded right now. We do this every Sunday unless, things happen. Last weekend was Resident Evil. We got distracted.
Kind of did it, but chose not to.
I forgot. I took a 4-day weekend.
I
just forgot. Time seems, when you fuck up your schedule and take 5 days off just to play video games, everything is kind of like, what day/time is it right now? So yeah, you can find me on Twitch right here, because you're here now. And if you're here later, you could find me here now on Twitch.
On Twitch.
I might be changing my name to Senpai Defiant. We'll see how that plays. We'll say that out loud a few times when people are watching.
Until it's taken.
And no one's listening. Okay. Jesus. We'll see. Maybe I'll come up with something better.
Okay.
And what else? Yeah, you can follow me on Twitch and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and I'm on all those things. Please do that. I'm hilarious.
We need to do a poll.
Yeah, I've tried doing polls before just to get engagement
or sucking senpai.
Well, you can be Sensei Bates.
Sensei Bates. I think you should take that one. That one's good.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's just a fucking stupid pun, and it doesn't even.
Bates.
Yeah, it's funny once or twice, but not
it's
marketable.
Funny enough to bring people in.
Plus, I told you, I still have living relatives that will be disappointed in.
They're not gonna know.
Well, they might.
Fucking. Would you rather be like a masturbation pun, and your family might be a little bit like, or would you rather be senpai, and then your family's like, oh god, he's a weeb.
They don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, good for you.
You can find Gabller sometimes in some places. He doesn't care. Whatever.
I'm around the internet.
If you really want to find him, you'll find him.
Just tune into the State of the Union. I'll be there.
Like you'll be watching as well.
I'll be watching at the same time.
Have you ever looked up at the sky and seen the State of the Union and realized that Gabbler's watching the State of the Union too? And for a moment, it's like you're in the same place again.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I was just checking.
Just checking.
All right, well, thanks for listening to the podcast. I'll be back Tuesday. Be streaming Tuesday. Don't know what we're streaming, but we'll be streaming.
I've thought about it. We could do the fucking...
Yeah, that's what I thought.
For Far Cry 5, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, they did do DLC, and there's New Game Plus now, so we could do Far Cry 5. But you gotta let me know before fucking 7 o'clock on Tuesday so I can download it.
Okay, maybe.
Gotta clear out some space. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been the Electronic Gaming Mostly podcast. I'm Seeker127. That's Gabller. Now fuck off.